Hello, hello. How's everybody doing tonight? How? All right. All right, everyone. So Friday night, we worked on a wall art type sign, 36 inches by 24 inches. And we were getting into the final stages of the design, getting ready to move over to toolpathing. And, the final wrap up of pricing when catastrophe struck and clicked the wrong button in the software, didn't save or have it saved up to a certain level, lost all the work. Divide the project up into part 2, and here we are today. Now, don't need to get into a long discussion about it, but 9 o'clock tonight is the State of the Union address. Love them or hate them. It's a very important message that, very important time when the President of the United States, talks to Congress and the House and all. If any of you have to dip out, to watch that, you'll be able to catch this live another time and stuff. And I completely understand. But if you are hanging out with me through it all, set your DVRs and whatever you got to do, catch it later. Wonderful. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. We're going to wrap up this project and go over some things and hopefully learn a few things or two. All right. With that being said, let's do a sound check. Make sure everybody can hear me. Testing 1, 2, 3. All right. Hopefully you can. And we'll go from there. All right. All right. We're going to jump right on into this, and we're going to switch over. I'm sure somebody in the chat will give me a thumbs up if they can hear me, or if they can't hear me, they'll let me know for sure. But we're going to go ahead and jump right on over to the main screen. All right. Check. Good here. There you go. Cool beans. All right. So here is the sign, and we're going to talk about making these corner pieces here. We're going to talk about the text. This is where we were. This is the stage we were at when all went awry, when everything went sideways. And what I did, I was talking in the class, and as I was talking, I went to file and went to go hit save as. I like keyboard shortcuts, Control S. Well, or save, not save as, but save. Well, I accidentally hit the close button. Not paying attention, had no clue that I accidentally hit the close button. And when the screen prompt popped up, it asked if I wanted to save the changes. Well, by default, it's set to no. Now, I did not even see the screen pop up. I just heard it pop up, and I hit the enter key. Not even paying attention to what it was asking me. And of course, by hitting the enter key on the keyboard, just, out of habit, just, and everything, I answered no to the question, do you want to save changes? So it shut down, and instantly, it was instant regret, right? It was like, oh. So save early and save often. If you're into keyboard shortcuts, Control S is a good way to go. Before I get too hot and heavy into the finishing of this design and stuff, I want to talk about some of the elements. And I want to make a couple of the little elements and everything, such as these corner pieces. Let's get kind of over here and focus on one of those. these corner pieces and these little rose head nail type buttons. Want to show you, you know, how to make those, but also I want to talk to you about 3D resolution in the software. When we have our resolution, like I have the resolution in the job set up to an extremely high, which is about 8 million pixels, meaning that little pixel squares are side by side in rows and columns, 8 million of them all across the project on that 36 by 24 inch area. And our model is taking up certain portions of those pixels. And however many pixels it's taking up, it creates what's called the resolution. And when we have a large work area and a small model that's taking up very few of those points, pixels, if you will, those points, then the resolution is quite low. Now, our resolution is set high in this project, but that's spread across the whole project. And so when you're looking at elements and everything, and you are looking at the detail in something, the number of points that item is taking up is going to determine its resolution. And so let's take this little rosehead kind of nail or rosehead button as an example. Now I'm going to come in here into the components, and I'm going to turn off some of the main items. And I'm going to turn on, let's see, my original corner. We're going to say show only this. We're going to come in here on this little button. Now, let's talk about the size of this. Currently, right now, we are roughly about a little over 5/8 of an inch. Okay, 0.6447, you know, we're just over 5/8 of an inch in diameter on this thing. And so imagine that little 5/8 of an inch over this 36 by 24 inch area. It's taking up just a few of those little points. And so I'm going to take these two shapes here, and I'm going to drag a copy of them just over in this open area. And I'm going to turn off that original. Make sure I got everything turned off. And I'm going to recreate this button in this large area, and then I'm going to show you a way that one way that we could or would want to probably do it so that we can see the detail and everything. Now, in the design tools, first thing I'm going to do is on this rectangle here, I'm going to use the create a smooth shape component tool. Let's make this bigger so everybody can see. They don't need to see me. They need to see the project. There we go. And we'll put myself down here at the bottom. Now, mind you, remember now, I am inside this large area here, okay? This large 36 by 24 environment. And I'm right here on this little piece here. Now, when I use the create a smooth shape tool, basically think of like a conical shape, right? All four corners, like a tent top, if you will, right? Like a big top tent. And, you know, all 4 points are going to come up on this rectangle to shape. However, instead of coming to a point, it's got a rounded edge. And with the smooth shape tool, I can control the size of the top of this shape and the size of the bottom of this shape. And so when it comes up to this, you know, point, rounded, you know, surface and everything, I can control, you know, what it looks like. And so let's say that on this shape here, that I want to go, we'll say 40%. I want to put a base height, and let's kind of go to the 3D view. So you can see this. Also, very important, so I don't freeze up constantly and everything, I'm going to turn this off and bring this back down. I'm going to bring it down a notch, so there's no struggling in our class tonight and all that stuff. Okay, let's go back over here and everything, and let's go into the 3D view. Now, it's important to make sure that whatever layer I'm working in, that layer is active so y'all can see what's going on. Now, let's go back to this component again, once again. All right, so here on this 40% shape and all, on this basic kind of rectangle and everything, I want the top to be more narrow, and I want the base to be more wide. Now really look at what this model looks like on the screen. Like right now, while I'm attempting to create this shape and everything, it looks like something from, what's that movie that Jack Black was just recently in? Oh gosh, it's a kid's movie, but anyhow, looks like something from a video game where it's just all pixelated, right? And you really can't see what's happening or what's going on with it until you let it kind of regenerate, right? The shape in itself, and let's go a full 100% here on this, and let's click apply. And on the shape here, it's completely pixelated. If I was trying to model this and everything, I'm not able to really see what's happening because this little bitty 5/8 thing is only taking up just a few pixels on this big project. So what's a better alternative that we have? Well, one of the alternatives that we have is sheets. We could create another sheet in the project, and this sheet, we could make it smaller. So let's say that I come in here and add a new sheet. This will be my rose head button sample. And I can take these two vectors and copy them to that sheet. Now, instead of, you know, seeing this pixelated mess that I'm trying to work with and everything, I can go over to this other sheet. Let me take my vectors and get them centered on that sheet. Now I'm working, in this case, in a 1-inch environment, 1 inch by 1 inch, because again, my button is only 5/8, or, you know, 0.64 or something like that. Now I can come in here with this tool and let's really get in here. Now this little 1 inch by 1 inch area is also working with that 8 million pixels points, that high, extremely high resolution. Now all those pixels and points, all those rows and columns and everything are condensed into this 1 inch by 1 inch area, which is what is going to give us better clarity when we're working with the part. And so now when I'm working with this part and I'm working with it, I can actually see what I'm creating much clearer, much cleaner and everything. So let's say, once again, I want to bring this down to, let's say, let's go 50% and apply that. Actually, I don't want to limit. Limit was the wrong, limit was the wrong one. That's going to be 100%. I want my scale to be 50%. And I want to lower that down some. I want my base on here. Let's go 1/8 of an inch for the base. And then I can start to, I want to widen this out. Kind of, I'm ballooning the base. So there's the top, there's the bottom. So I'm ballooning the bottom, keeping the top kind of narrow. So as I slide this slide bar to the right, I'm ballooning that bottom out. Keeping the top. Now the top, I could go very narrow, almost kind of conical, if you will, you know, that point, or I could kind of balloon it out this way. And also I want to kind of be right about here. I want to kind of have that, you know, height and everything. Now I don't want to, again, I don't want to flatten it out or anything like that. If I need to reduce my shape height, I can bring it down. So if I want to reduce it down to 30%, then all that's going to do is kind of, you know, bring it down to something that might look a little bit more realistic and all. So we'll go 30%. Once again, we're going to go a little wide on the base, narrow on the top. That's going to kind of give me that little swoop around. If I need to preserve internal corners, that is going to make my inside corners real you know, straight and rigid and all. If I need to bevel, you know, 2 different vectors or something, I have that option as well too. Well, I don't. I only have 1 square, and I just want to kind of bring all 4 sides up. Want to kind of be wide at the bottom, narrow at the top, not too narrow, where it's almost kind of, where it's not pointy but a little bit slightly rounded. Want it low, think of like a head of a nail kind of thing, and then, you know, I want to apply that. But I'm able to work with this much cleaner. I'm able to see it very, very, very clear, so I can kind of get my shape versus that pixeled mess that I was trying to shape and everything over there that, you know, every time I move it, it just jumbles up, and then I got to wait for it to, you know, reset and all of that. 8 million pixels in a 1 inch area versus 8 million pixels spread over a 36 by 24 inch area. A lot less concentration on that detail, right? So if you have a large project and a small model area, everything, make a smaller sheet that kind of fits the size of the model. Do your modeling and stuff on that part, and then we can just move or bring or copy that over to the bigger part. Now, mind you, when we bring it over to the bigger part, it is going to adopt, you know, that larger area, less pixels, you know, spread across that, you know, mentality. But the part's already made, you know, and everything. So we'll have a better visual. Now, I don't want this square. I want this round. So I want to take here, and I want to hold down my shift key and I want to make it a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to use this circle inside here along with the button itself, and I'm going to clear everything outside of that circle. Okay. This is going to give me, you know, kind of this shape here. And again, once again, just really real comparison here. Look at this versus this, right? And if I do anything at all with the, you know, the part, with this part here, and I go to, you know, shape and everything, look at the pixelation, right? We want to be able to see kind of what we're modeling and stuff like that. So little tip, model in an area that's not much bigger than your model needs to be, and then we can bring it over. So let's go back to here. And I want to add a draft to this part. So I'm going to come in here and add a small draft. It's going to freeze me. While we're doing the draft, I had to stop the draft because I've got other models open that I need to close, or I need to make sure it's the only one I'm drafting on. Okay. All right. So for this few moments, yeah, you're going to lose audio. Ronnie Probert, you're going to lose audio. You're going to lose visual as well, too. So hang tight. I haven't gone anywhere. Just got to let the part render for a second, okay? So here we go. I may freeze. My audio may be lost, but I'm not going anywhere. Hang tight with me. Sometimes it's like watching paint dry. All right, so now we have this little button head, if you will. Okay, so we should be back with audio, full visual and everything. We're back after the rendering. That little draft, lots and lots of detail in it and everything, so it always freezes up the stream every time I do a draft or any heavy processing. All right. Anyhow, so now this is our little rose head button. Okay, or little rose head nail head, or whatever you want to call it, that we can now bring over into the design. So we can take this part and we can copy it to the sheet. And then even in the sheet, once we have it in the sheet, then we can bring it over. And if we come in and we take a look at the two parts side by side, that once crisp, clean, clear model that was in that little 1x1 area, which is this guy right here, is now, you know, pixelated in this larger environment. Again, small model taking up big, inside of a big space resolution. That's why if we're working in creating modeling and everything, we want to work in a very, very high resolution because of this fact. If we were in a standard resolution in this, you wouldn't even be able to see the detail and you wouldn't even be able to see the 4 little points or anything, you know. So keep that in mind when you're modeling and everything. Doesn't hurt to make smaller sheets so you can really model and get the detail and everything, and then you can bring those over to that larger environment. Okay. All right. So that being said, let's go ahead and get rid of those two. Let's come back into our design. Hopefully that gave you just a little brief lesson on, modeling and working in, large areas or small areas and things. Now, let's look at the corner parts. Let's see if I can bring up one of these corner parts. Let's go with number 1 right here. All right, I'm going to show you how I designed and made these, and then we'll go to I'll show you how I made these, then we'll move into the finishing of the design. So here, let's start from scratch. And I'm going to go into sheets. And I'm going to add a new sheet. We'll come work over here in this new sheet for a minute. All right, so first off, let's start with the basics. I have a rectangle that goes around the perimeter of the board. My frame is 1.25 inches wide. So let's do an offset inward with sharp corners, or it doesn't have to be sharp corners, but let's go sharp corners. 1.5 inches. Let's create that, and that'll represent the frame of this part. Now from here, I'm going to offset inward 3/4 inch. Now, when I do this, let's close this. When I do this, if I come into here, I want to make sure that rectangle, that little offset is created, is selected, and I want to open up the rectangle tool after it's selected because I want to edit this particular rectangle. And I want to do an internal radius on it. So let's say that I do a 1 inch internal radius and everything, and I create kind of this radius here. Now I'm going to take this radius and I'm going to offset this shape, and I'm going to offset inward 1/8 of an inch. We can go 1/8 of an inch. We can go 3/16. We can go however far you want. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go 3/16. 8. And let me see here. Yeah, 3/16 is good. Okay. So now I'm going to do this some additional times. Now think of every two as one pair. That's going to be one model, one strip of the model. And so I want 3 models. So I need to offset this inward. So that's going to be 1. These 2 right here will be 1 of those stripes. This will be the second stripe, and then I want 1 more. So we're going to offset inward. Okay. And this is going to create that frame all the way around. But all I care about is 1 corner, because once I make the 1 corner, I'll mirror it to the other sides. All right. So here we're going to take a rectangle, and I'm going to decide right away how long and how narrow I want this design to be, meaning that, how long I want these stripes to be, coming out, and then how short I want these lower ones, because that's what that corner element looks like and everything. So I think I'm going to go just a little bit longer here, and we'll go with that. That'll be my corner piece, and that will be sufficient. And so from here, I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to eliminate everything else, just what's in the corner. Okay. And I'm going to come here and trim away this excess of this rectangle. Now I'm going to cut between each one of the stripes. Okay. Now there's my 3 separate stripes. Okay. So here we are with this. Now, this particular stripe here, we're actually going to go into node editing, and we're going to cut the vector here and here where the curve starts to straighten out, on that downward motion. We're going to cut the vector in those corners. And then I actually want that to be closer to the main part here. So I'm going to just use my left arrow key, and I'm just going to bring it over closer. I'm going to go something about like that. Now I'm going to take my extend tool, and I'm going to extend this line over to here and this one over to here. And then I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to trim there to reconnect that. Now, on here, I'm going to take this part and go into node editing, and I'm going to cut the vector here and here. I'm going to delete that lower section. And I'm going to have this with the extend tool. I'm going to extend this into this part here. And then I'm going to take the scissors and connect that together. So now I have this corner decoration here. Now I'm going to go into, and this could be conical, it could be rounded, it could be whatever shape you want. I'm going to go rounded, and I'm going to, create the round, but it's too square right now. So I'm going to take a line, and I'm going to go with a line from this top corner, and I'm going to go at a really kind of, drastic angle here. No particular number and size, just what I think I, would like and all. And let's go there just for kicks and giggles. And I'm going to take the scissors. Once again, I'm going to cut off this excess, and then again, cut in between. So we have, you know, kind of that step shape now. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the same thing with a line here at the bottom. And you can, you know, try to have it the same angle. You can do whatever you want. It's whatever, you know, looks good to you, right? Whatever you think. Kind of thing. If you're ever doing something, you know, creative or whatever like this. So we're going to cut off that corner and cut off in between there. So now this is my corner piece. Almost kind of looks like a wing, right? So imagine, if you will, if I was doing some type of emblem or whatever, and I wanted to take this and you know, flip it to the left to create something that looks almost like an Aztec eagle, right? You know what I mean? So that kind of effect, if you will, right? And you know, I could take on this, you know, let's say that I wanted to you know, create something unique like this. It would be kind of like a medallion, whatever, right? So we're just creating, you know, a cool shape, right? Whatever it is. All right, let's get rid of that and come back to our corner piece here and back in the corner. Now, when I take this corner piece and everything, I'm going to use a rounded curved profile. Give me a thumbs up if you thought that little Aztec shape was cool. All right, we're going to take that rounded shape profile. I'm going to go a full on 90 degrees on this shape. I'm going to preserve the internal corners. Preserve the internal corners. What this does, it's going to give me nice clean corners, you know, where it transitions into these sharp points and everything. And here we'll get nice clean, you know, instead of bubbles and all that stuff. Now, if we look at this part, this is kind of where we're at right now. Okay. It's kind of where we're at right now. Now I want to add a little bit of base to this. So on the base height, I can add 1/8 of an inch, 16th, you know, something. I don't want too much base, just a little base. It's all about that base. Okay. So now here we are. Now I'm going to take that part and I'm going to draft it out. And on this draft, again, it's going to draft. So we're going to have a little bit of a freeze up while it drafts this part. Audio loss, little freeze up and all that stuff. So give me just a moment and we'll make it happen. Here we go. Not that slow, or not that bad this time. All right, so there's our draft on that part. Now let's take and let's go over to our rosehead button here, right? And let's copy that over to that other sheet. Let's bring that up into play here. Now, if I wanted to know where the center of this was so I could get it centered perfectly and everything, if you remember, this original line here was a 3/4 inch radius internal curve, right? So I could take a circle with a 3/4 inch radius, and I could bring that circle Oh, sorry, it's not a 3/4 inch radius. It's a 1 inch radius. 1 inch radius. There we go. And I could bring that into position. Like that. And then if I wanted to, I could take this piece and I could snap it to the center of that circle, right? If I wanted that to be that far out, if I thought that would be more aesthetic looking or whatever, but I honestly think it looks a little bit better closer, right? So I'm going to bring it in closer. Now I am centered on this radius and everything. So I could take and, you know, draw a 45-degree line here. And I could have my part kind of, you know, follow that line to come in closer and everything, depending on where I wanted to push it and all. We'll go right there. Get rid of that line. And then I'm going to take all three of those parts. I'm going to mirror them, creating a mirrored copy, flipping about job center. I'm going to flip that horizontally, vertically, and horizontally again to create that little corner decor, right? So that's how we got there. Okay, so that's how we created that little corner decor and everything. And so going back to the main project, when we turn on the components, that's what brings us to here. And you add that together with the 1.25" frame, the 3D model, and everything. And, you know, starting to get something that looks pretty decent. Now, here's the big bonus for the ones that are watching live right now. For the ones that are watching live right now, you are going to get 2 models. And those models are this model here of this mountain scene, right? Clean with no text or anything on it. And you're going to get this model right here. That whole thing. Okay. So with that being said, in this wall art project, there are 2 models, the mountain scene and the mountain scene in frame, STL models and everything. We're going to compress that to a zip file. While that's zipping, I'll upload it into the drive, create a link, and we'll paste the link in the chat here in just a second. All right. Well, that's doing that. So that's your little bonus. You're going to get that tonight. All right, let's go back to our finished project. Now, lesson. I want you to look at what I have over on the left side here. And I wish I could really magnify the left side for you. We'll can't make it any bigger than what it is. But what we have is different phases of this build. So if I turn off phase 4, the upper text, and phase 3, the texture removal, which we're going to get into next. Phase 1 was all the originals. The original corner button, you know, the rose head nail, the original corner flourish, the original model scene, you know, mountain scene, the original outer base area, the base model, which is just a block, the there's that model scene with the draft. So all of these are the originals, all the like starting components and everything, all the starting components and stuff. And then when it comes time to start manipulating, or we're gonna start altering in some way, like we're removing the texture off the ribbon so the text can lay on top of it and be smooth. Now we're starting to kind of destroy the model. Destructive. It's a destructive, you know, edit and everything. So I don't want to destroy my originals in case I have to step back. If I have to step back and change something, change the size, change this, change the depth, change the thickness, change whatever, I don't want to have to start over because I've already destroyed that model. So with the originals in phase one, we can create what's called another level, a new level. So in the case of this, these originals are turned off, and then phase two begins. Now, phase two is everything you see here. It's kind of it's almost the completed model, everything put together, minus the text, right? Phase two is building the frame, the background, the little corner pieces and everything, and getting it all laid out. Once phase two comes into play, now I'm going to have to start removing this grain on the ribbon so that I can lay the text on there without it taking on the texture that's underneath it, because I need the text to kind of lay on there and not take on the texture underneath it. And in the last class, Friday, we had gotten that far, and I was showing you how to remove the texture and everything, and then how to, you know, tilt and fade the little addition we added in there to create a smooth foundation. We're going to do that really quickly again tonight, but this is phase two. So now we have here, this is that completed frame. Now in the next phase, I have to start destroying that ribbon, getting rid of the grain, cutting it around the letters and all that. Don't want that to happen. So we create a copy of the visible model and we put it in phase three. So we come into phase three, turn off phase two, our originals, and come into phase three here. And you can name it whatever you want. I just named it phase three. And phase three is that copy of the visible model that was down below from phase two transferred up here. Then we start cutting out the letters, right? So now we're destroying that, right? But we're destroying the copy of it. The original is in the layer below. So if I had to step back, or maybe I didn't like that font after all, I wanted to change fonts, I wanted to change positions and all that, instead of having to undo, and lose other edits that I might have made, which stepping back will lose other edits you got to make anyway. But instead of doing that, I can always go back and rebuild. This level structure and level organization and all saves time. And if I have, let's say that I created phase two, which is the completed frame and everything. Now from phase two, that could be my template for anybody's name and wedding date, or, you know, family, you know, name, or it could be anything in this banner now, right? Not just this one name I'm doing on this one project. I now have a completed frame that I could put any text on, any name on, or anything like that, right? So in this case, phase three is the texture removal. That's what I named it, texture removal. And then in phase four is where we're adding the text back and everything, right? Now, I want to show you in here the on this text and stuff. I want to show you one of the things that had to be done in order for the text to lay as, you know, cleanly as it is. And again, we're gonna move on. We're already at, man, time is flying. It's already 51 minutes into this class. Lord of mercy. Lord, I thought I'm like 15 minutes at least at the most, I would think. All right, so hang with me tonight. We're going to get through this. So let's talk about this, because I want you to know these phases before we get into the final toolpathing and stuff, because, you know, we're going to do one more set of text down here that's already ready to go, and then but let's take a look at phase 3 for a moment. If I turn off the text here, and we'll see that phase 3 has had the texture removed, and it's brought up a certain level and stuff so that our text can lay on top of it to, you know, create its, you know, that flat surface and everything. And if I didn't do this, let's say here on this September that I come in here and I'm going to build this up 90 degrees. I want rounded over edges. I'm going to cut that 90 degrees off at 10%. I want it to flatten off at a 10% as it builds up to that dome. At 10% of that build, it's flattening off, and that's going to give me rounded over edges. And I want to add, I like adding a little 1/16 of an inch base behind it. When I apply this and everything and we look at it, we can see that the September and the 2026 are taking on the rough grain beneath it, right? So what our goal is we are looking at, we want that smooth versus this rough and this hilly, you know, lumps and bumps and all that wonderful jazz. So in order to do that, we made some extra vectors going on here. So the first thing is, once the text is created, we want to add the draft to it. And then we want to create a vector profile around that text for the draft. And so we're going to do that with the September. We're going to right click and we're going to say show only this. So that, let's try that again. Show only this. So that way we're looking at this text here. A little rough around the edges and all that wonderful jazz. But we're going to come in here and we're going to add the draft to it. Okay, and what that's going to do is kind of just, you know, build it out some and all. And again, this is one of those things where, you know, in this large pixelation, now listen, pixelation does, and resolution, this pixelation does translate over to the quality of the finished carving. Okay, so this has got it's a little rough around the edges. Now, mind you, sorry, I got the hiccups. Mind you, I turned down the resolution for the class and everything, but I would build up the resolution, you know, to make sure I have a clean, you know, somewhat of a, you know, a cleaner text and all that stuff. This is what we're working with right now. So now that we have this draft, we can come in and turn everything back on. This is and always name your components, right? Structure, right? So this is the lower text with draft, with 15 DEG draft, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Now, the upper text and everything else, we have this. Now we need to create the vector around the text here. We need to create that offset for that model so that we can cut away the grain from underneath. And what I want you to see here is on, let's turn off the lower text just for a second. On this upper text, turn that off for a second. Here, you're going to notice if you look here, there's component A1 and component 1B and 1A. The name here, those vectors that filled in that hole with the flatness, because they are at different levels and everything, it was split. The model was split into two pieces. So this component is the, let's turn off the copy of the visible model. Come back. 1B is one side of this model. 1A is the other side of this model. It was split, literally like a line cut right down the middle. And the reason for this is so that not a tilt, but a fade could be applied to this, because it was low in the middle, high on the ends. While creating a fade makes the model disappear, so it actually lowers at the end. We'll do the fade on the next one. But this had to be split because from the center out to the left and from the center out to the right, it was low in the center and it came out kind of like this in that, because that ribbon and all has a little curve and twist to it in the model. And a simple tilt wasn't doing it. It had to be faded down. And so when we look at that in the context of here, let's turn it to its side. And let's zoom in. On this part, if I were to go in to the properties, we have a 7-degree fade. Now, if I turn the fade off, you would see that how it's low below the surface here, but it's high over here. Naturally, because it's kind of, straight, but that ribbon has a little bit of it gets smaller as it goes out from the center of the actual part, right? So the 7-degree fade faded from the start of it to the end, faded away. And you can only fade the component once. You can't fade it from, twice, only once. So that whole name, Bogelhau, that whole name had to get split down the middle so I could put a 7-degree fade on the right side and a 7-degree fade on the left side. So from the center, it would fade both ends, dropping them down, disappearing. Fade, it disappears into the other component. So that 7-degree fade, it just fades away and levels it out, basically, depending on what percentage you use. But I wouldn't, if I would have kept it as all one model, the whole name is one model, I would only be able to fade the whole thing. And that's not what it needed. If I tilt it, it's like a teeter-totter, or if I fade from one end to the other, that still leaves this end high. So I had to split the model. And there's different things that, that you'll learn that you have to do. So now coming back to here, we turn this back on. Let's go back over here and let's look at the September. Turn that text back on. now in September, we have to remove the texture from underneath. So if we look closely, the original vector, the model has been drafted. So there's a taper to it. And so the model is out here. Okay. And so the model's out here now. So what I need to do is I need to select that model, that component. It's not a model. That's components are the parts that make up your model components. And the result that you see in the 3D view is the composite model. Okay. So I keep saying the word model, the lower text model, this model, and it's the component. The proper term is the component. So the lower text component is what we're working on, and I need it to be selected because I need to go in and create a vector profile around that component. Now, if I create that profile here, it's fine and everything, but it really does not bring it out the way it needs to be. It's still parts of the model are outside of that, that vector area. So not really the way to go. I need to offset this. So we're going to use the offset tool, and we're going to offset outward, and very small number, 0.01, 0.02, 0.03, whatever you need. We just need it to, when we take away that material, it's got to blend with the rest of the model so there's no holes or gaps. So if I only went 10,000ths of an inch, 0.01, and I offset that outward and everything, any area that's outside of that vector. So here's the, let's click off of it. Here's the vector here. And on that offset, let's do that again. But there's still part of that model there. And now when that gets disappeared, when it gets gone, when it gets gotten, when it gets gone, anything outside of that vector is going to be a hole. It's going to be a hole there, so I need it to merge and blend. So here's how we do this. Okay. So first things first, we do create a vector boundary around the selected component. That is step number 1. And that's going to be what we use to remove the texture. But then on that boundary, we need to do our offsets outward from that boundary. 0.01 isn't really going to cut it. So I'm going to really cut it. Isn't really going to kind of fill in the area that I need to get the merge. So I'm going to go 0.02. Let's go 0.03. A little under a 32nd of an inch. And let's create that component here. So now and that's actually a lot. So we don't need to go that much. Let's go 0.02. Let's be a little conservative. 0.02. Good. Okay. So now we have 2 sets of vectors and everything. So the first vector is what we're going to use to remove the texture. The second vector is what we're going to use. That offset is what we're going to use to build it back up the flat area. Okay. So the first vector is selected. We come in here and we select our component, which is the copy of the visible model is that component. We have the vector selected with that component, and we're wanting to remove everything inside of the vector. Okay. And that creates this hole. Okay. Now we select the offsets. And of course, I did not group together when I created them. Always group your offsets together. But let me get them selected. When you're selecting the inside vector, if you do an offset, it's always the furthest one in for the furthest one out. Okay, so here I've got 3 vectors, and outside I've got 3 vectors. And so outside matches with inside, middle matches with middle, inside matches with outside, right on that. So if you ever have to do that. Now, as I look here, you see that 0.02 doesn't quite get out there. So all those little white areas are going to be holes. That's why I went to that 0.03 to begin with. And, you know, because that's going to be a hole. That's going to be a little bitty void. Small, but it's going to be a void, right? So we can't have that. So I'm going to delete that offset. And we're going to make another one. Offset outward 0.03. I hope if I select the right vector, there we go. So now we can see everything is all that white and everything is inside that vector. Now that's the shape we're going to build up. So let's go in. We're going to create a flat shape. I'll just give it some kind of base height to start with. Merge, not add, but the combine mode is merge. Crazy. Crazy. It's very important that when you do your offset, let's back up, Jack. When you do your offset, hit group, select on it. When that gets created, click on it one time and then hit G on your keyboard, or go to the group tool and group that together. That way you don't have to sit there and click, 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 you know, and all that stuff. All right, now it's very important to make sure that only this is selected when we build up that hole. So flat shape. I'm going to give it some height, 0.25. We want to merge that together. Okay, give it a second to rebuild. What you're seeing here is it's pushing up the sides because it's a, you know, it's not merging. Please release me. The important thing is make sure you're in the right level. That part that I just made needs to be in the texture removal level, not the text level. So the texture removal level is the important part, and because it has to merge with that base, but this level is adding to the level underneath it. So it was adding instead of merging, right? So that's why it looked hollow. So now, when we're in the right level, very important, levels are important. Now we can start to build this up and fill in that hole, okay? So we can start to fill in that hole. Now, on here, we have a bit of a tilt issue, and let's turn this to the side a little bit because it dips down. It's not flat across. This part right here comes and then it dips down into this deeper area. So we're left with this, kind of high rise, if you will, right? And also this is higher over here, so it's kind of got a tilt. So it's not only is it a tilt, but there's also a little bit of a fade that we got to do. So in our properties, we'll do the tilt first, and where you click first is the thin part of a wedge. Think of a wedge going in, the thin part, and then the wide part. We need the wide part to be down here because we need to lift that bottom end up, okay? This, we don't want to go up any higher on here. So on the tilt, when we hit set, up here, we're going to click first because that's going to be our thin part of our wedge. And then we drag our little guideline down to here. That second click, the anchor has a number 2 at it now. We're going to click down here. And this way, when we add our, let me get back into position here. Let me get back into position. My mouse decided to take over. When we start to add our tilt and everything, and again, that picks a large, small model, large area, but we have no choice in this situation because we are dealing with, we're dealing with this big model in the background as well too. So the tilt, we're going to add, I'm going to bring it to a 4% tilt. And then let's close that for a second. Let's come back in here. I need to bring my height up again. Start to kind of fill that in. Now, currently right now, the these little pixels and everything around, that is the model kind of pushing up, and there's some areas here that are kind of getting forced up with them. We'll get rid of those in just a second. But now we have a little bit of an issue because, not an issue, but you see how low it is over here and then how high it is here. This is where a fade, because I can only tilt once. So I tilted top to bottom. Uh-oh, hold on a second. Give me just a second. Give me just a moment. All right, y'all still with me? Give me a thumbs up if you're still with me. I had something that said that the chat was disabled or something like that. Let me know if everybody's still with me. Let me know if everybody is still with me. It's a good time to pause and save for a minute. And speaking of saving, now I need to really take a second here and go into Google Drive, drag this file over to Spindle TV files. Let that be uploading, and then I'll get y'all a link in the chat here in just a second. All right, let's come back here and let's take our text for right now. Let's turn off the upper text for a second. Let's take our text and turn it off. There we go. And it's very important that, let me step back for a second. Let me change my base height. I think I was manipulating my tilt on my text, not my actual component. Give me just a second. Okay, let's bring that back up. Okay, so once again, let's get back here really quickly. You see how high, because that model tilts down, right? And everything. And so we're high here and we're low on the front side of it. So if I put the text on top of it, it's going to be tilted, you know, like that. We don't want that. So I want to make sure that when I'm tilting, that I'm tilting this and not my text. I was screwed up. I was tilting my text a minute ago. So when we come here, we're going to click again up here at the top, down here at the bottom, and then we're going to add in that tilt. And what that's going to do is it's going to kind of level us out somewhat. Okay. And let's go with just a 4-degree tilt right now. And then I'm going to lift it back up. Now, look here. As I'm here, I'm kind of right, you know, the best I can be pretty much, you know, I'm kind of, I probably need to tilt back a little bit just to level this out just a little bit more here. Think of it like kind of I'm trying to create a straight plane, but notice that how much I'm raised up over here. So if we kind of turn this around, you can see that it's going at a ramp, right? And that's because the model's designed that way. That mountain scene is kind of going down, you know, and everything here. So if we come in and look at this straight on and just tilt it straight up, you can see there's a ramp there. This is where fade comes in. The reason why is because I've already tilted. You can only tilt one time on the model and everything. Now, here's the thing. I don't necessarily want to, I'd like to get this down, but if I fade, it's gonna fade gradually from one end to the other. One end to the other, right? So if I put a fade on this whole thing, and when you're setting the fade, the area you want to keep is clicked first and the area you want to fade away is second. Okay. And by default, it jumps to 50%. Turn that 50% down. As we come in here and fade and everything, when I start to bring this side down to where, you know, it's, you know, somewhat inside there, well, the middle, it's really low. It kind of actually, it's more, instead of a full ramp tilt, it's kind of a little bit of there's a little bit of a wave there and everything. So this is the perfect opportunity or the perfect reason why we would want to split a component. So on this component and everything, I'm just going to use this line that's already here drawn. And this line was not meant for the split. This line was drawn to represent a center line from point A to point B to create the center point of my arc, right? So that I could move this arc up and down to the center of this line. But since that line is there, might as well use it. So in that lower text area, not the lower text, sorry, in that component here, not the text, the filler. It's the filler. And then speaking of that, let me give this a name. Rename. We're going to move on. This is my lower filler. Now, I'm going to have that selected and this line selected. And I'm going to split this component. So it'll split the component into two halves. At that line point. Okay. It'll split that component in two halves at the line point. Now, I'm going to hit save just because we're at a good stage here. We're almost ready to get into toolpathing. We're an hour and 21 minutes in. Hang with me. We're going to be getting through this here in just a minute. But I really want you to learn this stuff, and I really want to explain this to you. But what I'd like to do for just a quick second, I'd like to move over to sheet 2 here for a minute. And I'm going to take a piece of clip art. And I just want to kind of really quickly demonstrate the use for the split tool. So we see this component right here, this horse's head and everything. I would actually like this horse's head to tilt a little bit more down. Okay. So what I could do is I can freehand draw, and I'm going to go right at the base of its jaw right here. And I'm going to freehand draw around the jaw. And then I'm going to come up just right behind the ear. Okay. And at that point, let me bring this down past this model a little bit here. I can take that component now and that line, and I can split that component. So now there's two parts. Now on this component here, if I come in and move the pivot point right to the back of the neck here, as I rotate this, first of all, don't grab the wrong point. We want to rotate. This is the rotate handle, not that one. That's the size handle. As I rotate this, I can tilt the head, right? Now, I actually want the head to tilt down a little bit further. So I'm going to go right about here. Now, these two models are currently not merging with each other. They're adding to each other. That's why there's a big hump right in the middle. So if I go into the component and everything here, excuse me, I can take the two horse parts, head parts, and change them to a merge. So they merge with each other. And then I would be able to, let's go here, turn off everything except for the horse heads, and make a copy of this visible model. Turn off the two originals, and then I could take that copy into the sculpting tool. Turn that diameter down some. Oh, not smoothness, the diameter. And then I can start to clean up where the two parts were split. All right? So now I have, this horse with his head slightly tilted lower. So that's the split tool, right? I can take a component, a model, a whatever. I could draw a line, tell it to split it, and it's going to cut it on that line. Then I can manipulate the two parts. So that's just kind of a quick and simple example of the split tool. All right, let's get back to business now. So here on this text, I have split the sept with the period and the 2026. Now, each of these components, filler A and filler B, are two separate fillers. Okay, so now I can work with them. Ooh, I got a little bit, got an itch in my leg. I can work with them individually. And now let's do the 2026 first. So on the 2026, which is filler A, I want to go ahead and we'll do, now I can tilt and fade these independently and everything. And so on that tilt, we'll deal with the tilt first. On the tilt, I can adjust, and what I want to try to do is level it out. And again, it's hard to see in the pixel area and all, but I want the two ends to be somewhat coplanar. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's the right term, but anyway, I want it to be somewhat level. So let's go, let's see here. Let's bring that top down just a little bit. So we can see the bottom here and the top are just good. Now that's tilt, right? So I got this tilted. Now I need to fade because look, my 2 is buried in the material, right? And my 6 is kind of out of the material and all. And right now, the fade at 17%, if I turn that off and all, let's turn it to no fade. You can see I'm still kind of at this ramp, right? And I actually need it to fade from the 2 to the 6, from the 2 to the 6. So I want to actually reset, because now I've split this into 2 parts, right? I want to reset this fade, keeping here at the 2, fading towards the 6. And then let's see if we can get up close. Not that close. Hold on a second. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. So they can see. Bear with me a minute. Get in the middle of the screen. There we go. All right, one more time. So we can fade now, and it'll start to bring that down, right? Starts to disappear, starts to fade. Bring it down. So what I want to do is I want to bring it to a point to where I'm somewhat, again, level. Then I can work my height to bring it down, to bring it a little bit, closer to the surface here. Let's actually go down just a little bit below. Okay. So that when I put the text on top of it and everything, I'm inside of that area and it'll blend much better and everything. Okay. So now I still have to do the left side, A. So let's turn the text off and let's go to filler. Let's see. That was filler B. Filler B. This is this side. And again, we can see I'm deep down here, kind of high up here, and all that stuff. Oops, don't move the model. Put it back. So I need to tilt. And for right now, I'll just raise this up to where the bottom is somewhat kind of like, close to that surface. And then if I turn this to the side, you can see where I'm at here. And more so, it's not really a tilt, it's more of a fade, but that's okay. Because I have some, different levels here. So I kind of want to fade one way or the other. We'll figure it out in just a second. But I'm pretty much leveled out here. So if we go into here on this component, that tilt is still there. Okay. And the fade is still there. Without the fade, this is what it looks like. You see that ramp. So that fade is still there. And what I just need to do is really, let me come here. What I really need to do, this is pretty well, looks pretty well level here. I need to actually kind of switch it up. I want to fade this way some, tilt the other way. So we're going to go tilt. And this is the thick part of the wedge. This is going to be the thin part of the wedge over here because I need this to stay where it is, but I need to jack up the other side. So thin part of the wedge on that tilt is here. Thick part of the wedge is over here. All right. And then I adjust the tilt accordingly. Let's see if you can see this. Kind of get it leveled, leveled out. Then get it brought down to my surface. And you can see, let's zoom in here. You can see that height there. Fade is going to go this way. So we come back into here. We turn on the fade, and our first click is going to be back here. Second click is going to be over here. This is what we're fading to. Turn down that fade. Bring myself back up. And then we'll adjust the tilt. You got to pick your battles. There's only 2 directions it can go. We definitely don't want that. Now, let's turn that fade off for a second. Let's bring this back down. It's kind of jumped up the part there. We're going to keep the fade here. We're going to fade it out down here. You can see now we're kind of starting to, somewhat level out at that top. That's going to be good. We'll raise this up. Almost done. Raise that up. Take the tilt. It's a little game of playing around here. Get everything leveled, get everything tilted, get everything adjusted. And that's going to give me the best all around fit. So now add the text on top. Add the text to the top. Zoom out. Okay. Now I'm going to take a second and hit save. I'm going to turn up let it save. We're almost here, where this is our end part here coming up. I'm going to open up our settings and I'm going to go to a maximum resolution. And when I click OK, it's going to rebuild this model. Okay, just so I can show you guys the text and everything a little bit cleaner. Okay, so even though my ribbon, you know, is kind of got its shapes and everything, it allows my text to be, you know, fairly consistent throughout. So tilt, fade, split, all kinds of stuff going on, right? All kinds of cool stuff going on. Okay, let's save this. All right. Now, this is important. You get your text the way you want. You get your, you know, if I said to myself, oh, you know, I should have taken that September 2026 and made it larger, right? Made it a little bit bigger and everything. And the reason why I didn't make it bigger is because in the original image, I had a little bar going here and here on both sides of that 2026, and I've left it out of this one. But let me see if I can show you. So you see these bars here, here, and here, right? The date was going to go in the middle of that area there, but I'm leaving those out. I'm not putting those back in everything, so I'll leave that out. Leave that out for now. But anyhow, if I wanted this, if I decided now at this point, right, oh, I want to make the text bigger, then I got to go through all that again. But the great thing about it is that's what the levels are for. Because if I wanted to do it again, I simply just turn off all of those parts and everything, turn off and uncheck them, or turn off the phase or what have you, come back into here, take my clean slate. I don't have to rewrite the text or anything. The upper text is fine. I just have to bring another clean copy up. Another clean copy up. I can still use the models for the upper text. They'll blend with this model just as the other. It's just the lower text is all I have to rebuild. Make it bigger, take away the material, put the material back, level, tilt, blah, 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 just with the lower text. The upper text and everything, I just turn on those, you know, I just turn on that, the different levels here, and I can still, you know, add with it, whether it be the lower text, the upper text. If it was the upper text, let's say this was my model here, I could come in and turn on this level and turn on the A and B. Wait for it. And then let me do this the smart way. Got to first make a copy of this model. Big E has to be in the right phase. So I could come in here and turn on the copy of that model. We can hide this and that. We have our upper text. Make sure that Wait for it. Bring that in, and the give me a second. One second. Oh, I'm a goofball. It's I have to take away the two vectors from this new model. It hasn't been reversed yet. So anyway, long story short, I could start over, and I have to here go into the vectors and simply remove this set of vectors here, the outside, remove those, bring them back, and then everything will be back to normal. But I don't have to start completely over. I just have to step back a level. Now, of course, we're not going to do that. We are already at this phase here, lower and upper. Okay, so we're here. Now, what I was saying just a minute ago, so you're not confused, the copy of the model that I just brought back up, I still have to take the vectors that I have and remove the material from that component, the letters, but I don't have to rebuild those components. They're still there. I just have to remove the material. And then those other components, component 1A, 1B, and upper text will sit right back on there. But there's still that's a whole model. The material hasn't been removed. So it's got to get removed. And then these will sit right where they are. I don't have to rebuild them or anything. I just have to remove that material from the new copy that I just made. And then it'll look like this. Okay, so now here's our model. Let's get over to the tool pathing strategy. First of all, let me hit save. Okay. Now, in this situation, let it save. In this situation, I've got a lot of flat area here. I can choose to have a 2D pocket cut, which would be faster, come in and remove the material to this flat area here, and then have the 3D carves just focus on that emblem, the 4 corner pieces, and also the frame. I could also choose that the frame, since it's just a square frame with a round over in it, I could just cut that square, and then I could take it over to my router table and round it over. It all depends on time. Now, on the quality of the step over and everything for the carving and stuff, I have to decide for myself what is more beneficial and what is less cost effective. So me and the labor and everything of me at the bench sanding after this thing comes off the machine, that time sanding and cleaning up and getting ready for the finish, or a little bit more time on the machine so that I'm spending less time sanding. And it's always going to win to, if I have to add 10 or 20 minutes or what have you to the toolpath time to get a better finish, so I have less work to do at the bench, I'm still going to come out much less expensive because the labor and my time and everything is always going to be higher than the machining rate and all. So the to give you a general idea, when it comes to machining time and everything on a project like this, the machine cost on this entire project was $30. Okay, that's it. The labor cost was 90, 3 hours, so it was 90. Still had an old price in there from earlier. Give me a second here. Come back in here. Yeah, the machine cost $30.50. My labor cost $90. Now, if I spent more time on the machine and less time at the bench, then we could knock those numbers down and change them around, and I would come out much better, right? Lower, keep that price somewhat lower and everything. So you have to really kind of decide what the trade-off and everything is. And so this running a little bit longer on the machine is always going to be better than the cleanup time that you have to do afterwards to get it, finished ready. If the machine can do it, and it just takes a little bit of extra time, let the machine do it, kind of thing, right? So we'll talk about that more in just a second. Let's go over to our toolpath. So here, I want to kind of get a clean set of vectors, for everything. And so I'm going to create another layer, and I'm going to call this my machining vectors, toolpath vectors, machining, whatever you want to call it, right? That's there. And what I would like is the outside vector of this component, not that one. None of those. I want to turn all those layers off, hide that for a second. Let's take, we don't need, let's take, turn this off for a second. If you remember, everything was drafted, right? So it's a whole nother part. And so these corner vectors, let me get rid of all of these vectors that do not belong. So this, that, over here. And it is much better if you organize your layers and stuff as you go, don't wait till the end, right? So we're going to move those to a new layer. These are going to be my corner model vectors original. And then I'll have a corner model vectors with draft. So these are going to turn off. Hide those. Let's go down here. Select, not that. Come over here. Putting these vectors on that layer as well. Move to layer, corner vector layers, hide those. Now, on those corner pieces in my component tree, that's these parts here, we can turn off the frame just for right now to kind of take away any of the confusion. We can turn off the mountain scene. We can turn off everything just so you can see what's going on. Just these corner pieces. These are drafted. So I want to select them. And then I want to create a vector boundary around the selected components. Okay. Now, these vectors, click them right now, they're grouped together. You know, when it created them, it grouped them together, all 4 of those, but that's my machining vectors, right? So I want to come in here and I want to move those to a new layer, and this is going to be my corner machining vectors. And we'll keep those on because we're about to use them. So we'll keep those on. Now, turn those off. And we can, instead of clicking them one by one, you can always turn on the model you actually want to work with and tell it to show only this, and it'll turn everything else off and leave that on. But this is the text vectors. We're not machining those. They're good, right? Because they're part of that model now. They're part of that. So these, we can go ahead and just move them to a new layer, and this will be our text vectors original. We'll just call them text vectors because they include everything. We'll turn those off. We'll come in and turn on our emblem. We want the emblem with the draft. So let's look at that in the 3D view. This is the emblem with the draft. That is correct. And we want to create the vector boundary around it. So select it and create that vector boundary. All right, wonderful. Move that to a new layer. This is our emblem machining vectors. Click OK. Guys, still with me? I'm not putting you to sleep yet, am I? All right, so we got the emblem machining vectors. We can now come in and turn that off. Let me get out of this side over here, and so I can keep this locked open here. Turn that off. So I got that vector. And then our frame, there's no draft on it. So the original vectors that were drawn for the frame, we can use because they go right on the inside and right on, and all I need is the inside one. I'll take the outside one too. Copy those. Now these are going to get copied to a new layer, and this is going to be my frame machining vectors. All right. Ooh, frame, F-A-R-M-E. We'll leave those on. All right, let's turn off everything except for, let's see here. We want our corner machining vectors, our emblem vectors, all machining vectors there. Everything else, text vectors can get turned off. They are wonderful. Let's see here. All the original stuff. Okay, wonderful. Now I have a bunch of empty layers in here. I don't want those layers in there. I'm now kind of like really quickly doing a cleanup. We're going to go to delete all empty, delete empty, right? I want to get those out of there, minimize the stuff I have to click on and everything. Time management. Okay, so now here, this was the layer for the blended top, the original model. I'm not machining on that, so I can turn that off, get that out of my way. The corner models, I'm going to be machining on those, but I've got a lot of stuff landed in the corner models. The frame landed in the corner model, the buttons, the corner pieces, and all that stuff. Notice when I turn them off, it turns off everything. Now I have to have those on because I need those models to be visible to create the 3D rough and 3D finish toolpath. So that one's got to stay on. And I'd probably do a little bit of organizing, and I would not have everything. The frame would not go on the corner model layer, maybe clean it up. So I could add in a new layer and say my frame model, right? So my frame model, and on the frame, I can move that to a new layer and move it to that frame model. So this way, if I turned off the corner model, the frame still stays intact, right? That kind of thing. All right, so now I've got my layers here and I've got what I'm working with. Now I need to turn on the actual machine, the model that's getting machined. And so that's my upper text. With draft, my lower text with draft. We've got component 1A or 1A and B. Let me rename this really quickly. Instead of component 1, it's upper filler. That's the fill-in area for the upper letters. Upper filler. B. Upper filler A. Now, stay with me here. Stay with me really quickly. I'm going to hit save, file save. And the mountain scene model that I told you could have, we're going to really quickly share, copy. Let's try that again. Share. Everyone with the link can copy it. Generate a download link for you all. Okay, the link I am pasting in the chat right now is the link for those two models. Take a second. If you're on your computer, if you're on your phone, it might be too big of a file to download on your phone, but your computer, there's the link. That's for the two models, the mountain scene, blank mountain scene, and then the whole mountain scene with the corner emblems and the frame and all that. All right, so, okay. Now, let's look at our 3D view. And this is our finished model. It's visible. Now, if you notice on the screen, I now have vectors that I can work with, okay? And on those vectors, there's my inside vector. My inside frame vector got cut down to a corner piece. Hold on a second. Let me offset that frame model vectors, frame machine vectors. Let me offset a new one inward, 1.25 inches. Offset inward 1.25. There we go. Okay. So now I've got these vectors I can work with. So now I can choose to do a pocket cut, have the vector selected so it moves the material, and then I can focus my 3D cuts just on the model areas instead of my little bit, doing the whole, finish cut all the way across this big old 36-inch piece. I could just focus it just in the model areas and everything. in the center, all the flat area is already machined and milled down. And so I want to do that. And here, I want to make sure that little vectors that don't play a role are not part of the mix and stuff, and the things that are. So I really don't need to have, let me hit the U for ungroup. I'm going to turn this one off, hold the shift key down and click on it to turn it off, because I'll delete it in just a second. And I'm also going to turn off these inside ones because I might not need them in the actual pocket machining. I'll decide that in a minute. Let's make sure there's no others. G to group this back together. And then I can come in here and just delete that. I'm not going to delete those, but I'm going to delete that little PC one. I don't want that in my mix. But now I can come in and I can create the vectors that I want to machine up to do my pocket cut and everything. So here on these, instead of, think about this. If I have this pocket, if I'm doing this pocket inside here, it's going to be machining between here, skipping here, machining here, skipping, machining and all, right? But where it can't fit, it's, you know, it's not going to machine, but that's okay. That's our finish cut. We'll fix that up. So I want to select this outside rim and these, the inside border vector, the corner vectors, that outside rim, I'm going to leave that undone because my finish cut will clean all that up. And I'm going to create a pocket, but now I need to know how deep is my pocket toolpath. Let's go find out. Let's go to the material setup. In the material setup, my model as a whole is in the right position. It's not buried in the wood or anything. It's at the top of the material model, in the material, top of the material, the little slide bars at the top. I'm good there. So at the top, now my model says it's 0.8832 inches thick. Now that's the entire model from the bottom of that frame all the way up to the tippy top of the highest part. It's 0.8832 inches thick, the whole model overall. But that's not how deep my pocket is, right? So my model's positioned correctly. That's important for me to have set proper so that I can go acquire my correct height. So when I click OK, now in my 3D view, I can hover the mouse over my flat area and you will see here the top of my flat area, not the top of my board, the top of my flat area says 0.66332. Okay, 0.66332. Now, from here, this is 3/4, right? The top of the board. So it's 3/4 inches thick. I am on this 0 here. I'm going down 0. The top of these little corners are 0.4. This plate is 0.63, that kind of thing. So that's how deep it is, 0.6332 in this flat area. So my pocket cut is going to have these vectors selected, the corner vectors, the inside vector here around the outer perimeter. It's going to cut 0.6332. Hello, Lainey. How are you doing, girl? Go lay down. My dog. Yes, she has the same name as me. All right. We are going to, let's go back in here. And again, if I move that mouse, you can see the number. And my head's in the way. So here, let me do this. My head's in the way. Let me move me over. Let's see if it'll allow me to move. No, it don't allow me to move. Hold on, let me turn myself off. How is that? There we go. So the bottom of the screen right here, the bottom of the screen, you're welcome, guys. The bottom of the screen, as I hover the mouse over the model, you can see those X, Y, and Z numbers. So Z, we're at negative 0.6332. That's the bottom of that pocket right there, okay? That's as deep as I'm carving. So when all this material and everything gets milled away, all this lake scene and everything gets milled away down to the finish cut, that's this flat plane right here, okay? Sorry, I'm looking at your guys' chat, and I should be looking here at the camera. Sorry, disconnect. Anyhow, that's what I'm carving down to. And instead of letting my 3D rough cut do it and 3D finish and all, having to, clean all that up, I'm going to do a pocket cut straight to that final depth, because that's the final depth. 0.6332 right here. So my pocket cut is going to use a combination of end mills to help me really kind of get into those areas and stuff. So I'll use a 1/4 inch end mill, definitely. I could, if I wanted to, it's 36 by 24. So there is plenty of room that I could, if I wanted to, I could start off with a 1/2 inch bit or even a 3/8, right? A 3/8 inch end mill, come down to a 1/4, down to an 1/8, figure out what I want to do from there, right? Whatever it takes to, on the machine to kind of help reduce and all. Sometimes it reduces time. Sometimes it adds another step and adds more time. We got to just look at our estimated values and everything, and we got to just judge from there. So here I'm going to look at, we'll just start off with a 1/4 inch end mill. And then after I calculate it, I'll add in maybe a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch and see if there's any variation in the time. And then I will, I'll make a judgment call at that point. So here we go. 1/4 inch end mill is going to be the first bit. Then there's going to be an 1/8 inch end mill. And the 1/8 inch end mill is doing everything, just cleaning up where the 1/4 inch couldn't fit. So we can reduce the number of passes on that particular bit when, to probably just one pass on it. The 1/4 inch bit's going to be the workhorse. It's going to be doing the most. And the same thing, vice versa. If we had a larger bit, we could kind of step down the passes, because there's no sense in, if all the wood's gone and we're only taking a small amount of material to do a little cleanup in the corner or something, there's no sense in doing that in 3 passes when the bit could absolutely do it in 1, because all the majority of the work is gone. So right now, the 1/4 inch end mill, as it's currently set, is taking 5 passes. On this point, it's taking 1/8 of an inch per pass. Depending on your machine's strength, rigidity, and all, you could absolutely reduce that down, which absolutely reduces runtime and things like that. On my hobby units, 5 passes would probably be, the basic cut that I would be at. On my commercial units, I'd probably do it in 1 or 2 passes, but I am going to increase the passes because I want a cleaner finish. The less work that I have to do, labor, that I have to add to this price, the better off for me. So if the machine does it, that's fine. I can let the machine run a little bit longer if it has to. So we'll go ahead and this will be our main clearing pocket, right? And it really brings it right down to that finish level. All right, so we're going to go ahead and calculate that. You're welcome, guys. We're going to calculate that, and then we're going to be able to remove all that material around the models and everything down to its finish level, the absolute finish level and everything. Then okay, then our 3D finish and 3D rough cut can just focus on the model area. So I don't need the inside of the frame selected at this point. Now the frame with the roundovers, we'll deal with that in just a second. And we'll probably end up combining it in to the other two 3D rough and 3D finish toolpaths. But for right now, I'm going to keep that separate just for a second because I want to talk to you about that just a little bit separately. So here, I don't want the inside rectangle selected. I just want the components around the model selected. Now it's going to focus the 3D rough and 3D finish on the model area only. All the flat area around those is, oh, that's not it. All the flat area around those is already down to its level. Okay. Now, so we come in here, and in this case, we are going to do a 3D rough and a 3D finish. Some machines you don't really need a rough cut. You can go straight to the finish. It really depends on your machine again. So we're going to use the selected vectors as the boundary. Use a same 1/4" end mill. We're going to do a Z level raster. We're just going to remove the areas that need to be removed and nothing else. And we're going to, this is going to be our 3D rough 0.25 end mill. Calculate. Okay, so now the 3D area, the 3D rough is only focusing on those 3D areas and not the whole project as a whole. So we're going to preview that. It's going to take away that waste material down. It's going to step in levels, take away that waste material that, is just waste, doesn't need to be there, right? So it's going to kind of bring those down. There we go. Now our 3D finish cut, on the 3D finish cut, we are going to, again, use the selected vectors as the boundary. This is the only difference here. I need the finish cut to go past the vector lines to blend the models in with that flat area that we pocketed out. So I'm going to let them, if I use the model as the boundary or the selected vectors as a boundary, then it would stay within those vectors, right? I need the bit to be allowed to go past the vectors to blend in and clean in those models to that machined area that's already been machined. So I'm going to give it a boundary offset, and I'll allow it go 1/8 of an inch. Okay, now this is my 1/8 inch tapered ball nose. Now, I do have other detail areas in here and everything. And so I do want to add in a second bit. And depending on the detail, the level of detail and everything, I'm either going to be using a 1/16 inch tapered ball nose or a 32nd or even finer, depending on what I need. I believe that I will get excellent detail and everything with just adding a 1/16 inch tapered ball nose into the mix. And give me just a second. Let me fix some settings here. And that makes me want to go look at my other one. Okay. All right. Now, I am going to cut with the grain, with the direction of the grain. We're going to cut with the direction of the grain back and forth like a printer, not round and round, because with the grain, against the grain, with the grain, against the grain, with the grain, against the grain. Now I have sanding that I've got to do, and I got to do cleanup, on that against the grain, cut and everything. I want to go with a printer. I want to go with the direction of the grain. In this case, the grain is running left to right, so that's my x-axis. That's a 0 angle raster cut. Again, letting the boundary offset, letting it go 1/8 of an inch past the model boundary with vectors and all. So let that calculate. It's going to take a second. And then, hey, Lainey, maybe a dumb question. There's never such thing as a dumb question. Let's see here. But what is the longest overall length bit you can use with a 1824? Well, I mean, most of your tapered ball nose bits are 3.5 inches in length, right? And then anything beyond that is called an extended bit. So you have it that are 4 inches and 6 inches and things like that that are for used to getting into deep cavities on stuff. But this is on bigger machines. Your standard 3.5 inch tapered ball nose bit is fine for the 1824. So your end mills are going to overall length. Your 60-degree 1/4 inch B bit will be 2 inches in overall length. But yeah, 3.5 inches will be your standard tapered ball nose length, and that's what you would use. All right, so now let's take a look at the toolpath here. And again, notice that the toolpath is just focusing on the 3D areas, because again, that flat area has already been milled down. And notice the heavy blue area right here. It's that 1/8 of an inch. It's tapering it into that flat area, so it'll blend it. That's an allowance offset right here, this dark line here. It's allowing it to go past those vector lines and blend it in with the rest of the model. So we'll go ahead and preview that visible cut. Let that go through. It's going to take just a second on the simulation. But is it Tony? Tony Patterson? Is that you, Tony? Or am I getting somebody mixed up? But yeah, 3.5 inches overall length. Now this is just the 1/8 inch tapered ball nose bit right here. And let's see here. It should let me move around while it's carving. If we look in here, you can see that 1/8 inch bit could not get into these areas here. Those lines are tool marks. That's the flutes. That's the simulation of the flutes at the bottom of that tapered ball nose tool not being able to get down in there. So it's leaving those tool marks behind, right? So that's what we're seeing right here in those corners and all. So the 1/16 of an inch tapered ball nose bit, that's going to be, the next bit. And if we look here, all the areas in the river and everything, you see those, that's tool marks, right? That's the tool marks. So now the 1/16 inch tapered ball nose, all those red lines, that's that moving back and forth. Red is where it's traveling in the highway. Z is up and down, and then the blue is where it's engraving and everything. So we'll come in here, and that will go in and clean up in those areas. Let's see if we can zoom in and see it as it makes the cuts in. And you should be able to see in here. Okay. Now, I would be good with this and everything and all. The 1/16 of an inch tapered ball nose bit gave me plenty of detail and everything. I don't really need to go any lower than that. But if I wanted to, or if I needed to, or everything, then I could come in finer to, if I really wanted to, get around these letters or anything a little bit finer, I could use a smaller bit. It just depends on, do I want to spend time sanding, or do I want to let the machine do the work? So I'm going to let the machine do the work. And I'm going to add in one more tool. Let's recalculate that really quick. Yeah, cool. All right, all right. Thanks, guys, for sticking with me, guys and girls. I appreciate you. Hopefully you're doing well. And yeah, hopefully you use those models. I don't know, maybe you will. You never know. This process is what's called rest machining. So your larger bit does the majority of the work, and then the smaller bit goes back and does the rest. Where the larger bit could not fit, the smaller bit will go in and fit. And where that one can't fit, the next smaller one goes in and does. So it is going to, each toolpath is going to do its own little bit of work to clean up what the tool before it could not get to. So we're almost done with the calculation. Give it just one more second here. We're not there yet, Ronnie. We'll get as soon as all the toolpaths are calculated, we'll look at the time. All right, so now let's take a look at these toolpaths as a whole. So in here, the 3D area, this is the toolpath with the larger bit, the 1/8 inch bit covering this area here. Now, when the 1/8 inch bit does the majority of the work, the 1/16 of an inch bit is going to do the touch up, and we'll get into those blue areas. It's going to go in and it's going to fit where it can't. And all of this up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, all of that up and down motion, where the bit is, going up and down and everything, the machining strategy may need to change to reduce that, because that's all time. That's all time, up and down, up and down, up and down, and everything. So we might need to look at changing the machining strategy on that one a little bit and everything, most definitely. And then the same thing with the finer bit, the detail bit and everything. It is going in and coming in and touching up the last little bit. So if we go in here and take a look at this, in that smaller area, you should be able to see it change as it goes through. It's able to get in there and get a little bit more detail. So around those letters and all. Okay, so now let's talk about the corners or the 3D model here, or the let's talk about the round over here. This profile cut, or this frame cut, the frame was a 3D model, and had I included it in the 3D cut, my little ball nose bit would have to do, both round overs on the edge here and all. Or if I added new vectors, maybe it did the round over on the outside and then the inside and everything with that small bit and all, and it would just take, forever. And it's a simple round over. It's either an 1/8 inch round over, 1/16 inch, whatever I set it up to be, right? So instead of including that in the model and it being hours or minutes or more minutes, more minutes, I'm actually going to set up a roundover toolpath. Now I have 16th inch roundovers. I've got 1/8 inch roundovers, 3/8 inch roundovers, 1/2 inch roundovers, 1.5 inch roundovers. Got all kinds of roundovers, right? Whatever you want. Now, in this case, I'm actually just going to use the 1/8 inch roundover bit. And it's going to be a profile cut. We're going to go 1/4 inch deep. I'll use the 1/8 inch roundover. It's going to be cutting on the outside of the line, and it's going to step over 1/8 inch. So 0.125. 1/4 inch deep, step over 1/8 inch. That's based on the geometry of the bit itself. I'm going to calculate that. And that is going to allow me to run that very fast toolpath to round over those edges to get the result of the frame that I modeled, right? That round over all the way around, okay? Instead of my, adding minutes, possibly hours of trying to do the little round over, flat round over, all the way around this 36 by 24 with my tapered ball nose bit, my round over bit does its job. Now, I don't even have to do it on the table. If I had a router table set up, with a round over bit, I could absolutely, just take the frame over there, run the round over, and be done with it, right? Whatever it may be. It could be the machine doing it, could be me. Now, this is only just a couple of minutes to do the round over here, and but versus, minutes, major minutes or hours and all. And so pick your battles. That's why I did not include it in the 3D cut. Even though it was a 3D model, that frame, it's a 3D model, but it's a simple flat model with a rounded over edges. All I need to do is run a round over bit on it. Okay. So we're at a very critical point to hit save. I learned from my last mistake. So let's hit save there. And then we'll look at times and look at price, and we'll call it a day. Okay. Let me see here. This is my profile round over. Oh, I'm typing this. Not even saved yet. Profile round over. White side 2050. Okay, on my 3D finishes, this is my 1/8 inch tapered ball nose. I don't want to name them just yet because on my machining strategy, now this is going to be a shock to the system. There's a lot of time involved in this particular project, but we have a lot of up and down and everything, and there might be something we can do with the tooling strategy to reduce some of that. So first of all, let's look at the general time. And again, your times may vary based on your machine's capabilities and the bit settings that you do and all of that stuff. For my main pocket cut and everything, and let's go into the time here. For my main pocket cut, I have 2 bits. I have a 1/4 inch end mill and an 1/8 inch end mill. And that currently right now on that 36 by 24 area based on, first of all, let me set it to my machine that I'm running this on. 1.3. So based on the number of passes and everything, we're looking at 1 hour and 23 minutes just to pocket out everything, get everything pocketed out down to its finished level. Okay. So 1 hour and 23 minutes on the pocket cut with the 1/4 and the 1/8 inch end mill. Now, if I add in a 1/2 inch bit, and if I reduce the number of passes that one bit is doing versus the other, because the 1/4 inch end mill, if we look here, is doing everything all that pocket, all that blue area, that's the 1/4 inch end mill. The 1/8 inch end mill is just touching up in these blue areas here where the 1/4 inch can't get to. So there's absolutely no reason to do that in 3 passes when 1 pass will suffice. Okay, so I can reduce quite a lot of time there. Now, that 1/8 inch bit right now is only 12 minutes of the cut, but that's still 12 minutes. If I came in here and I recalculated this toolpath, I don't need to do it that way. If I come in here and I bring this down to 1 pass on that bit, because again, it's just doing cleanup. I'm going to leave the other one at the 5 passes, but when I calculate this, the 1/8 inch bit is just going to come in and, do that a little bit of cleanup, and let's see if that took off any time. Sure it did. 8 minutes of the 12. So now we're down to 4 minutes, right? So on my rough cut, I am taking 1/8 of an inch per pass, and that's running at 1 hour and 11 minutes. I could probably do 3/16 even on a hobby machine per pass. I could do, it just depends on your rigidity. On my commercial machines, I could do it in 1 pass if I wanted to. So that would, reduce that time down. So on this main pocket, if I come in here right now, I've got it set to 5 passes. It's taking 1/8 of an inch per pass. I could come in and say, okay, let's be somewhat conservative because I want to be clean too now. I don't want to be too aggressive. Aggressiveness doesn't win the race here. Okay, this is tool paths are where profit is won or lost. Okay, so you have to kind of, this is where your machining strategies and your discipline really come into play when it comes to your pricing and everything. The here, if I come in, I'm taking less than 1/4 of an inch per pass. I'm actually going to set this at let's go. One second. Stop. You're gonna fight with me? Okay, I don't want to do. Hold on. I added a pass. I don't want to add a pass. I want to. There we go. Okay. So if I calculate that and everything, now I've taken that hour and 11 minutes and I brought that hour and 11 minutes down to 42, right? So what's that? Shaved 20, 21, minutes off and everything. That's what it is. Now, this is minor compared to the modeling cuts. The modeling cuts we're about to get into, they're extreme, right? These are where this is where hours turns into days and days turn into minutes, right? Kind of thing. So right now, total time, 47 minutes versus the hour and 23 minutes it was 10 minutes ago, right? So we've shaved off a little bit of time, 15, 16 minutes off just the pocket cut alone. Okay. Again, not being overly aggressive. The machine can absolutely handle it and produce clean results and everything. We're just being smart. We don't want to be too little passes is not good, either, because it could cause rubbing, burning, chip out and all kinds of, things as well. So you got to really, test and get to know your materials and your tool paths and things. All right. So that's the pocket cut. Now the 3D rough cut. that's coming in and hogging away the waste material in the 3D rough cut, that is based on the quarter-inch end mill, and it's based on the 3D model and what it needs to take per pass based on the bit, and the bit is currently set to take 1/8 of an inch per pass, right? So again, if I changed, and when I edit this, I'm not editing my permanent tool database, I'm editing just the tool for this tool path. So here, I can go 3/16. Another 16th isn't going to hurt that bit. That bit's aggressive. It can take, not aggressive, but I mean, that's a bad word to use, but that bit can remove material. And very conservatively. So I can go ahead and do 3/16 per pass on that rough cut and take that hour and whatever it was, hour and 11 minutes or whatever it was a minute ago, and bring it down to 36 minutes. Okay. So here we took, I believe it was 111 or whatever it was a minute ago, but now we are 30 minutes off. Okay. Just by taking it, instead of 1/8 inch per pass, 3/16, adding another 1/16 of an inch per pass. And you can sneak up, see what your machine, can do and all that stuff. All right. Now, really quickly, I'm gonna do the round over. The round over is 4 minutes. We're good there. We're not gonna do anything of this. Now the 3D finish cuts. This is where it starts to build up your time. Okay. Now the 1/8 inch tapered ball nose is 3 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, for that 3D cut. Now imagine, if you will, that I would not have done the pocket cut and the 3D bit had to clear all of the flat area too, not the frame. Frame we did separate, it was a round over. But all inside here, if I had that one ball nose bit running across the flat area, flattening it out as well, instead of just focusing on the model area, imagine all of the time it would have added to that runtime. So we're at 3 hours. We probably shaved off a good couple of hours, who knows, what it is. But here's the thing. Now we have a 16th inch tapered ball nose that's coming in, and it's even more. And it's like, what? It's doing slightly less, but there's a lot of up and down. You see all those green lines? That spindle is literally coming down, up, coming down, up, coming down, up, coming down, up, coming down. I mean, literally, this, and it's doing this. Whew, that looks like 1,000 times or more. I mean, that's crazy, right? All that up and down and everything. So what we have to look at is why, what is our machining strategy? Is it the raster or the offset? What is causing that up and down instead of it just doing what it needs to do? That's a lot of back and forth. All that red, it's a lot of back and forth, and it's a lot of up and down. That's a lot of wasted time. So we have to come in and we have to figure out what our machining strategy is and what's causing it and everything. And so if we look at our cuts and everything, for the tapered ball nose bit, we're doing a raster cut. Okay, for the cutting with the grain and everything. Now the other two bits are rest machining bits. They're just going in and touching up the areas where the big bit couldn't fit. So those, we can go ahead and offset those so they can go in and clean up that area instead of this back and forth, up and down, 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 back and forth, right? So we're going to set that to an offset. And then the same thing with the other bit, we're going to have that as an offset as well on those two bits because they're just going in and touching up areas. Now, when we calculate this, again, give me a second, let it calculate. I have two small bits here. One giving me okay detail, rest machining, and the other one giving me great detail. So do I really need the middle bit? If ultimately I'm going to be finishing with the 32nd inch tapered ball nose, can that 32nd inch tapered ball nose just do what the 16th inch is doing plus it's and give me a shorter amount of time? Can I shave 4 hours off, 6 hours off by removing that bit more time? We're going to find out here in 2 seconds. So we've really got to plan our battles. Right now, we're getting rid of that back and forth, up and down in our calculations here. Give it a second to calculate, and we'll see if there's any change in our toolpathing strategy. You're very welcome. And everything. So this is almost done calculating, and then we'll go from. Now let's take a look at, you can see here, a lot less red, a lot less back and forth, but we still got a lot of green. So let's take a look. Let's come here and turn this off. On our first bit, our main bit, it has its typical, coming in, moving to the next line, raising up and all. That's fine. The second bit, we got a lot of up and down because it's going in here and, and touching and all. But if we look at the areas and on, let's go look at that third bit. That third bit is going into the kind of those similar areas and just kind of literally retouching up. Again, look at this, turn that off. Look at this, same areas going over each other just because one bit couldn't quite fit. So the smallest bit is going in there doing the detail. So right now, as it sits right now, we were at, what was it, 4 hours or something, 4 or 4 hours just on that second bit. We did, by changing it from a raster to an offset and getting rid of all that back and forth, we did bring it down to about 3 hours and 12 minutes. And then the big one is the small bit, right? 9 hours. That's a long, that's our big boy. That's the one that's taken the most work and stuff. And so, because it's doing all the major detail and all that stuff. Well, there's a lot of up and down, a lot of up and down, a lot of up and down. So all together right now, the 3D machining on this, based on my speeds and feeds and all that stuff and everything, and my tool settings and blah, 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 we're looking at, an estimated time of, 16 hours of runtime on this piece. It could be much less. If you have a commercial machine that runs, 1,000 inches a minute, you could probably shave it down to quite a bit. But for hobby units and mid-size units and things like that, we're talking a long time here. And it's fine. It all comes down to it. So whatever it can do and touch up and all, less time that I have to do getting in there with little files and all and cleaning up and, getting it finished ready. But here's where the what is it? The rail meets the road. There's a term, but here's where it all comes down to. Do I really need that middle bit if the third bit, the smaller bit, is actually going in the same areas, cleaning up the same areas? Just let it do the whole thing. And one, it's gonna be able to stay down longer and run, so less up and down all over the place. So that's gonna shave off some time and stuff. So let's come back in here and in the, not the rough cut, the finish cut, and let's take the 16th inch tapered ball nose out of the equation. So we have our 1/8 inch tapered ball nose, and then we have our 32nd. Okay. Now we'll also look at the combination too of doing the 16th and the 32nd without the 8th. We'll see what kind of, what comes up. But let's again raster cut on the first one, cutting with the grain. That's going to get a majority of the, nice, clean, little sanding, and then rest machining will be an offset. And my detail and stuff, I've got it set about mid-range and all. I could absolutely, if I wanted to, I could reduce that down as well too. But I'm going to keep it at the default on the rest machining, and we're going to calculate this one more time. Stick with me. Stick with me. 6 minutes in. Hang with me, ladies and gentlemen. Just a little bit longer. Let this calculate, and we'll see if we've helped or hurt ourselves. Did we help or hurt ourselves? Almost there. Project with the level of detail and everything, you know, conservatively, we're probably going to be in that 16, 15, 16 hour range, or slightly less. We'll see here in just all right, so now we have, again, the 1/8 inch tapered ball nose coming in and doing its clean. And then we have this one. Still a lot of up and down, but now, it's going in. Let's see what our times are. Let's go in here. And on our times, we are at 3 hours and 15 minutes for the 1/8 inch tapered ball nose, 14 hours and 55 minutes for the 32nd inch coming in there. And if the 32nd wasn't done, the 16th inch gave us decent detail, but not great. Again, it's what takes, a sign, a quality sign, from being a $60 sign to a, $260 sign, right? So here we're going to be at 18 hours, 11 minutes, all together overall, total of 20 hours. Okay, 20 hours of machine time. Now, 19 hours and 39 minutes estimated, machine time and everything. Now, let's translate that into machine cost. So we're going to take over here, and we're going to go into our products. And by the way, this is the product pricing studio by Build It TV, me. And this allows you to, it's not a spreadsheet. It is a Windows app, one download Windows app. It's a tool for your shop to allow you to put in your fixed costs, put in your machining costs, your machines, your machine costs, your raw materials. It's not an inventory program just yet. That'll be released next year. But the products that you build, it allow you to properly price the products to where all of your cost, your fixed costs, machine costs, everything it takes to keep the doors open, all of that is allocated. And with each sell, it spreads that money to pay those bills. If your fixed costs are bills that come whether you sell something or not, they come every day or every month, and there's what they're there. They never go away. They keep the shop doors open, the lights on, the insurance paid, the mortgage paid, all that stuff, the electricity and utilities. And sometimes the little things we forget about, and everything. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our wall art board, and let's build this up. So on our wall art board, I don't have a finished image of it yet. I'll add that in a minute, but we're going to ignore the base price. That'll get recalculated in just a second, but we have one sign. The production time, we're going to, we'll change that in just a second. We'll come back to that, but the shipping price is $24.60 on that. It is $24 on its sorry, it is not 24. It is 36 inches on its length. It is, what am I? Am I 24? Hold on a second. What size is my board, man? 24. Oh, it is 24 by 15. Why do I keep saying 36? I'm sorry. I got my daughter's project that I got to make for her. It's 36 by 24. I got that on my brain. Sorry. So it is 24. Sorry, 24 by 15. And it is 1 inch thick. It is an active product. The wood, I'm actually using select pine on it, right? So the select pine, if we look at my raw materials, my select pine boards, an 8-foot 1x10 is, the board cost me $41. There's 6.67 board feet in that, and there are the price per board per square cubic inch is 4 cents. So that board is 4 cents a cubic inch, and so that's the board that I'm using. And in that particular product, I am using 360 cubic inches of material there. All right, so the 270, and that is the primary board. Secondary. Now the machine I'm going to be machining this on is the 3648, or the 4848. And our total machining time we said was 20 hours. Now we want to break that. We want to break that down into minutes so that we can get our per minute costs and everything as well, just so we have it. But so we have a total of 20 hours at 60 minutes an hour. That is a total of 1,200 minutes. All right, let's save that. Okay, now my production time. Production time is start to finish, how much time it takes start to finish, okay? So that's machine time, handling time, sanding, packaging, everything. The total time it takes to produce this one item. Now, we have our 1,200 minutes of machine time. The finishing, we're going to probably have and we're not talking drying times and all, this is handling time. We are going to still have a little bit of cleanup to do with sanding, but not as much by letting the machine do a majority of the work with the finer tipped bits and everything. But still, we would probably have about, I would say, 2 hours of handling time in it, of sanding, applying the finishes, packaging. So we will take an additional 160, so that's 1,360 minutes on that there, and then hit save. Now we're going to move over to the pricing sheet. Now on the pricing sheet, we're going to reload everything from the pricing, the package inventory, all the changes and stuff, and we'll come down here to our wall art sign. Now, in our variable cost per board and everything, our labor, the labor of that is going to be, we're going to have that 2 hours of labor, but also we're going to have, there's going to be monitoring time and things like that, and sanding and packaging and all that stuff. So we're going to have about 3 hours in labor. We're going to have 8 hours in packaging material, $8 in packaging material. That's the paper and everything, and the cardboard and stuff. And if you are running a business and all, definitely look in your town for packaging companies to get your cardboard and things like that. For boxes, you can have custom boxes made, very inexpensive per box and things like that. I think my boxes for the products that I make, they're like, what are they? 46 cents, 36 to 40 cents a box, something like that. And for my smaller items and stuff. Or you can just get your cardboard and make your own boxes and things. All right, but $8 in our packing material. Store fees, if I'm putting fees, I'm putting this up on Etsy and everything, and I got to pay fees at Etsy, and the fees per product here, for this product, this one product and all would be $5. And then on my other, this is finish and everything. And on my finish and stuff, it's going to be, I'm going to have my clear coat finish. There's going to be 3 coats. My finish cost me $7 and it covers 120 square foot per can. I'm only using 3 coats worth and everything, and I could calculate the cubic feet and all that stuff, but that's where we start getting into the nitpicking and stuff. And I'm not calculating waste and all that. But there's no screws or hardware in this this package. If there's going to be any hanging materials, there's going to be keyholes put on the back. So it's all finished. There's not going to be any paint, and there's going to be also some stain as well. So I'm going to have about $15 in finished material. Now, we're not going to get into it, but in the product pricing calculator, you can put in all your individual cost items, and it'll total it for you and everything, and it'll auto fill this. Right now, I'm manually filling it. Now, the margin I want to make on each of these products is 25%. And so when we, and I'd like to profit each month, I'd like to make, after all my bills are paid, after everything and all, I'd like to have $1,000 profit each month, after everything is paid, And so if I recalculate this and update this pricing and all to sell this sign and to be able to make my 25% margin based on my costs and all, $341.08. We have $24 in shipping, $24.60 in shipping. Total production time, 1,360 minutes overall. My machine time was 1,200 minutes of that. My material only cost me $11.55. The total allocated cost to make each unit, okay? The total variable cost to make this, $255.81 to make it. Not going out the door, that's to make it. That's paying labor, all the fixed cost, percentage, machining time, design time, communications with the customer back and forth to, set up the design. Everything is accounted for. All of the fixed costs, the rent, mortgage, property taxes, utilities, phone, insurance, and everything. Now, in order to maintain the $1,000 a month profit that I'd like to make, and again, this is one item now. In reality, all of these costs would be spread across all of my items that I sell, right? But if I was only selling this one item, this is it. This is all I sold in my company, this one item, I would have to sell 26 of these a month, 26 units a month to break even. Okay. I would have to sell 38 of them a month to pay all of the bills and make my $1,000 profit. Now, let's say that I only wanted to make $500 in profit. Who wants less profit? But if I want to make $500 in profit, doesn't change my price. Still $342 because it still cost me $255 to make. No more, no less. So this is why selling it for $60 nearly closes my business. Because that $60 sign, I'm paying the customer to take it. All right. And this may seem like a high price to you, and you might be like, whoo, holy shit, that's a lot of money and all for a sign. No, it's not. If you think so, this is where my book comes in very handy, The Art of Precision, where it teaches you about the business mindset to get you out of the hobby mindset, right? This is not, that's not an expensive price for a sign. Let's say that I wanted to make just $500 profit. It doesn't change my selling price. It doesn't change how much it costs me to make the sign. It just changes how many units I need to sell each month to make that profit and everything. So once all the bills are paid, my 25% margin and stuff, again, just to break even, because again, it doesn't change the price and all, but 26 units a month or 32 units a month, 26 break even, all the bills are paid, and we just broke even on the cost. 32, if I sold 32 of those a month, then it puts that $500 in my pocket at the end of the month. After all the bills and all the employees and everything is paid, it puts that money in the pocket. Now, the machine cost alone, the machine cost $101 per unit on that runtime. And so a lot of that, if we can really, really, really get our production down, meaning, can I set up a jig that will help me produce these items, where I can run, instead of one at a time, I can run more than one at a time on the machine? Can I set up a jig system? Will that help me if it was parts or something I was cutting out, whatever the case may be? So what can I set up some kind of jig for easy repeatability? What is my procedure as far as the tool paths and stuff? Spend a little extra time on the design side, really, really, really honing those tool paths. And then once you have a tool path on your speeds, your feeds, and everything, stick to them for your products. Right now, we're just kind of random right now. And so with the structure, I know if I'm carving pine, I can carve much deeper and much faster. It's a softer material. I do have to be aware that it's also, because it's a softer material, it's also prone to burning and fuzziness, fuzzies and stuff that have to be cleaned up. So I really want to, if I have to do an extra step over, the customer's not paying for the step over, right? That's so they're not paying more just because I add 2 more step, 2 more percent on the step over and everything. It's it's going to reduce the time that I have to spend sanding those little fuzzies. So that brings my, labor time down, right? And everything. The tools, this is where testing and developing instructional, test your machine. Test it on walnut, test it on maple, test it on cherry, test it on plywood. What cuts are going to be better and what cuts are going to be worse, what's going to be less to clean up and all. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have no affiliation with these people whatsoever. Stay with me. The lecture's almost over, but let me pull this up. Stand by. This video right here, if any of you are making sheet goods and everything, this video right here is 13 minutes long, but it's packed with valuable information of machining plywood to get literally nearly mirror finished parts where there's not that rough tear out and all that stuff, to get nearly finished parts, mirror finished parts off the machine, which means less time having to deal with that sanding and cleaning up and everything like that, the employees and all that stuff. This 13-minute video, this company went through all the testing phases and everything, what bits work best, what material, cuts best, what speeds, what feeds, what pass steps and everything. And he provides that information. He breaks it down in 13 minutes on what they did to achieve the best production piece off the table, which literally could almost get packaged up and sent out the door with very little handling in between. That is structure. That is implementation of procedures. And that is where time is saved. If you can test and what speeds and feeds work great for your plywood, your melamine, your MDF, your hardwood, your softwood, your cherry, your pine, whatever. If you practice and you testing it, not practice, whatever, however you want to word it. If you test and make notes of that and set up your tool database properly and all, get your machining times right, get your machining strategies straight, what's going to cause less up and down, what do we need to do, we need to change the vectors? Learn these things. This is what you should be learning, right? Anyone can make a sign, but not everyone can make a sign profitably. Okay? If you focus your attention in the right areas, it drops significantly. More money in the pocket, less money in production, things like that. So can I spend a few extra minutes really going through my tool paths on this sign, fine tuning them to bring that machine down from 1300 and what was it? From 1200 minutes to something a little bit more reasonable? 100% I can. 100% I can. Just a matter of sitting down and figuring it out. And that spending that little extra time at the design, if I can shave off that machining time and production time and everything to bring that price down, then, it is what it is. But this is what I need, and what I need to sell this piece at, if I were to sell it at $60, because $60 just feels all warm and fuzzy and it feels good and people will buy it for $60, then I'm going to be out of business within a week or two, right? That kind of thing. So keep that in mind if you are thinking about starting a CNC business. If you're doing it just for a hobby and fun, hey, you can still set up structures and everything for yourself to save yourself some time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to learn more about how to calculate fixed costs and overhead and things, and what is overhead and all of that stuff, and you want to learn about things like that, I've got a book coming out very soon called The Art of Precision, which goes over all that. But in the meantime, I'm going to put it in the chat. If you want to learn more, there's some guides, free guides that you can follow and read and stuff on buildittv.com, right there in the chat. And check it out, because we want to get away from emotional pricing and really start, if we are selling things, what keeps the door. We shouldn't be asking how much I can sell this product for. We should be asking, how much do I have to sell this product in order to keep my business alive? That's the switch in the mindset. All right, everybody. Any questions? What do we have here? Where on Etsy can we find you? You won't find me on Etsy. I don't sell signs and stuff on Etsy. I don't make carvings anymore. I make accessories for the digital wood carver CNC machines, dust brushes, limit switch kits, different jigs and things like that. I don't get to sell creative carvings that much anymore because I have over 5,000 digital wood carver customers that I do customer support for, and you're one of them, Ronnie. So I don't get to. I made great money when I sold at the farmers market and the flea market and everything. And one of these days I'll get back to being able to do some credit card. But right now, all of my time is for making parts and everything and accessories, third-party accessories, if you will, for digital wood carver, CNC machines, and owners and stuff. So creating programs like the product pricing calculator to help folks like you be able to price, to stay profitable and sustain, so substantially stay in that profit. What am I trying to say? To remain profitable. But I will say this. Let me see how. That's my book cover. Yeah. It'll be available on Amazon probably within the week. It'll be available on Amazon. But yeah, The Art of Precision, professional guide to CNC craftsmanship systems and sustainable profit, right? So it takes you through, it'll teach you about, what is CNC, what are tool paths, what is, creating designs and stuff, but then it'll transition you into tool pathing strategies, creating systems, start thinking more along that business mindset. By the time you end the book, hopefully it'll completely change the way you look at things and the way you question things, and make you a better business person as well as a carver, right? It doesn't take the fun away from the carving, but it changes that mindset, that thinking, in a good way. All right, everybody, y'all have a wonderful evening. I'll definitely be making announcements when the book is available, but in the meantime, the link I put in the thing, the product pricing calculator, is available. It's not a subscription. It's a one-time download. It's going to grow from just a pricing calculator, product pricing calculator, into inventory management, tool management. Next year, we're going to be doing a inventory manager, tool manager, and everything that's all built off of it. So it's a system, right? Right now, this is the root. The product pricing calculator is the root of the system that it's going to grow into. So keep that in mind. It's not just a spreadsheet. It's not a spreadsheet at all. It's a offline, actual Windows program that is an absolutely invaluable tool for you and your business. All right, everybody. Y'all have a wonderful evening. That was my little sales pitch for the evening. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's end this with one more visual of what we produced. Enjoy those free models, and we'll see you later this week or next week, one of the two. I'll put out announcements when it's ready. All right, catch you later, guys and girls and everybody.